Alright, today I got one that I think will apply to a lot of you that owned late 90s, early 2000s Ford Rangers or Explorers. Those are the most prone to this type of situation where you're going along, you're braking, you're coming to a stop sign, dry pavement, there's no ice, no rain, nothing like that, and the ABS activates. You may not notice it, you may feel it in the pedal, the vibration from the pump going, you may hear a sound, but there won't be no ABS actual flashing on the dash, no traction or ABS light flashing on the dash. And most of the time they won't even set a DTC ever because it's such an intermittent failure, and it's the signal dropping out for one of the wheels on the car. So it thinks that wheel's locking up and it's doing its job. It's modulating the brake pressure to that wheel, and when you don't have to because you're in a dry situation, you're not really locking up that wheel. It's a false lockup. So it'll actually do that, and it'd be kind of freaky, especially because you're not expecting it. So it'll be a signal dropout. They'll be going down. I'll show you on the graph also. All four of them be going slowly down, reading your speed. Whereas the one that's going bad will just drop off, like around 3 to 5 miles an hour. It's going too slow, and the magnet inside the actual sensor is too weak from age and all that stuff, and it'll actually lose the signal. So it just defaults at 0 at that point. It's not getting no voltage induced to it, so it just goes to 0. It thinks it locked up, starts modulating, and it works otherwise, and that's why it never sets a DTC for that speed signal sensor being faulty, because it's always has continuity through it and it's reading otherwise. So that's why it may be hard to diagnose unless you have a scan tool like I do that actually graphs them along, and you can watch and see which one is actually dropping out. And this is how it sounds. You'll be driving under 10 miles an hour, and you go ahead and hit the brakes for a stop sign or whatever, light brake pressure, and the ABS pump comes on, and there's no reason for it. It's obviously dry outside, and I'm going to show you how it sounds now. And no, it was not me farting. That is the car. Do it again. And that's the ABS pump coming on because it thinks that one corner of the vehicle is locking up, and it's trying to do its job and prevent it from locking up. In all reality, it's a false lockup situation. Alright, here I can show you on the scan tool what the ABS module is seeing and just why it's falsely activating the ABS pump in there to modulate that brake pressure. So we're going along, all the sensors are reading 5.59 miles per hour, and then you go along in a timeline here. This is a recording, 4.97, they're all reading. Going along, everything's just fine. Then all of a sudden, left rear drops out 1.24 miles per hour. And this particular vehicle, 1.24 miles per hour, is the base stock 0 setting, and certain cars are like this on the scan tool anyways. And they'll all start out at like 2 or 1 or some weird number. They won't always be 0. So basically the ABS module is seeing the left rear is being standstill, locked up, and the rest of the car is going 5 miles an hour. And that is why it's activating the ABS pump. Now unfortunately, if you don't have a scan tool like this that graphs it out like this, and you can see where it drops off and why it's dropping out, it's kind of hard to diagnose. You may take it to an independent shop, doesn't have a scan tool like this, and they're kind of scratching their head, throwing all kinds of parts at it, whereas with our scan tool at the dealerships, we can literally look at this and say, oh, it's obvious, it's dropping out right there. You can see it dropped out, whereas the rest have a nice smooth downgrade to 0. Here I'll show you the one on the Crown Vic that I'm having a problem on. This one's all exposed, has a regular straight axle on it. But on the Rangers and Explorers, they'd have a whole complete sealed hub and bearing with the ABS sensor coming out of them. Those ones you can't really see inside. But this is what's going on inside on a smaller scale. Let me get you in here and focus. Alright, so here's the tone ring right here. You can see the tone ring going around and around and around. So you just gotta make sure that tone ring, if you can see it, you can see these on like F-150, stuff like that. Make sure that they're not cracked or warped or half coming off of there or loose. And then the sensor themselves, you want to make sure that they're not falling apart, or sometimes I see these ends on here that are aluminum that actually stick out of their metal. They're actually split so bad from rust and corrosion. Now this one, of course, is just weak and it's dropping out to low speeds, so you can go ahead and spin this all you want and look at it, and everything's just fine. Now in general, debris on here, as far as shavings and all kinds of garbage from the brake dust and all that, doesn't really have any problems or effect on the actual reading of the signal on there, but I did clean this one off just to make sure. Now I know this isn't very scientific, but it will illustrate my point. Is that this one, the old one, is losing its magnetic field, and that's why it drops out like that. This is obviously the new one, and I'll just show you real quick. You can see it sticks to it still, my pick on here, and I can pull it, but it loses it. Jeez, I can't get it off this one. And this one, I do the same thing, and see how far it goes over. Let's go. Just doesn't have that strength anymore. Now the end result is obviously to just change the ABS sensor out, but the problem is diagnosing which one. And you can see with the dealer scan tool like this, you can graph it, see it drops out, and we know that one has a problem, because otherwise, any higher speeds, otherwise it works just fine, smooth, no dropouts, no erratic signals, nothing like that. It's perfectly smooth, but that magnet in there gets weak, and then you get to the slower speeds, and it's not exciting as much voltage by the exciter ring going around slower, and it just drops out. It just quits, and that'll turn the ABS pump right on, and it'll make it a scary stop for you.